Hello and welcome to Blueprints. Grab your tea. I am having a rooibos with fruits and florals. Specifically, it is orange. It's California orange, I believe. I am living a phenomenal life. The only thing that would make this better is a bit of roasted almond. A Negro can dream. If this isn't common knowledge by the time this gets posted, time is not linear. I will reach back through loops of time to kick myself in the shins personally. All right, we got 3 topics today: book rollout, social income slash social media advertising, and committing to no advertisements, and what that means materially for someone who is in the role of celebrity. We'll get to it. First things first, book rollout. I know that I said I would be circulating in print in January, and I made an executive decision that that was likely not the best way to go. I'm publishing this book instead in episodic installments as an audio project. The first portion should be up on February 8th, and you should be seeing this the Monday after February 8th, 9th to 10th. You should be seeing this on the 10th. If the internet has taught me anything, it's that people have an automatic knee-jerk reaction to hearing that they have to read something or they are invited to read something in order to participate in discourse. I do not fault people with this. A large part of my audience just kind of shuts off their listening ears, such that people still don't know that I have a podcast with audio versions of all my essays, and that has been the case from day one. I'm dyslexic. I take reading ability and disability seriously, or simply just having an auditory preference. Maybe you learn better that way. What I have failed to account for in previous art making was the trauma that people have associated with reading for whatever reason, but it's something that gets moralized or demoralized in contemporary Western societies, especially in that K through 12 era. That off-button response can be stress-induced, and it doesn't seem to exist in that same way when I say that something is available for listening or watching. The barrier to entry is a little lower. So I know that I will lose a significant portion of people if I say the book is out, you can read it, the book is out, you can buy it and have it printed. Not that that's not going to happen, but I want maximum engagement with this text because I do think that there are so many ways that it is incredible and transformative. And I'm saying this about my own work, and I mean it. So dropping in episodic installments gives us time to familiarize everyone participating with the themes and the theses of the text, while also blessedly avoiding spoilers. I personally hate spoilers. Maybe that's not your tea, but it is mine. All right. So then in terms of social income and the work that I've been doing with them, along with the Sierra Leonean Association of Ebola Survivors, I gotta say, this is the collaboration of a century, and I have not done right by it. So much of committing to excellent work is dealing with pain that requires your growth. I think that I should be maybe better about fielding these things, considering that I am a trained clinician, but no. I buckled under the same wounds that I had, and the same maladaptive coping systems that I had the first time I interacted with the Ebola survivors as a community, right? I sat down with them for the first time when I was 20 years old. And that was really quite young. I always say that was like the last of my childhood kind of evaporated in that work, because the things that they gave me to witness were so multitudinally heartbreaking. I didn't even know that I had that kind of heart to break. I didn't deal with any of that grief well, quite frankly. I drank a lot. I didn't sleep. I just kind of like became a workaholic, tried to work my way through the grief, and none of that actually helps to address the stress responses that your body can have, the shutdown responses that your body can have as a result of being overwhelmed. Now, 2024 was a year that I regretted every single time I engaged in mind altering substances, but it is still, or at least was still, my immediate response when I came across pain that I didn't feel equipped to navigate through. My initial project had a lot of overwhelm, right? And that's what trauma is. Trauma is when your body, specifically your nervous system and your processing capabilities, experience overwhelm. Every single human alive has trauma. It is unavoidable in the course of learning and growing. The first go around with them when I was 20, it wasn't just that I sat down with them at a point in time in which my psyche was quite, malleable, right? Those are experiences that formed and shaped the lenses that I have on the world forever. It was also that COVID's juxtaposition came maybe 5 months later, and COVID began killing people left and right across the world, and mass COVID denial allowed the slaughter to continue without very much pushback or fanfare. I know I say this a lot, but we literally hid the dead in cruise ships. We hid the dead away in meat warehouses. I entered into a permanent after. I did not recover. And due to a change in profession, I was in the club, and also way more time than I anticipated spent at home around my nucleic biological family, because of quarantine, I was drinking a lot more alcohol than I wasn't. Like, I was sober less time than I was drinking. I experienced a really similar kind of like psychotic breakdown last year as I did when monkeypox hit, and I was really stressed about it and having what I think was a productive response to an emergency. But what I got feedback was that I sounded manic or crazy, and I just kind of like that broke my brain. I had a similar psychotic break last year when I didn't slow down to feel the grief of Baba passing and my mom's cancer diagnosis. I kept coming up on dead ends and missed deadlines for fundraising for ostensibly what is the coolest shit that I have ever done on the internet. I remember polling people up and down like over the summer, like, why don't we care? Why aren't we engaging with this? Why don't we care? I thought that we could extrapolate by now. You know, I had done all this work on a mutual aid series that people really liked, and on prioritizing how much we need to materially support people who are doing movement work for free. And people, of course, showed up for me. But then when I said, okay, these people who are incredible need support, it was, we don't really care. And I took people at their word, right? Like, you know, people said they were strapped or that there were just too many disasters going on in the world or whatnot. I reassessed my syllabi. I tried not to smoke. I failed miserably. October came around. I made a video detailing that I was still operating on a free basis for mental health services, and money that I didn't really even ask for just rolled in. It was tens of thousands of dollars. And I like, my brain broke. Like when that happens, I do just like I have a system for when I get more money than I anticipate to fulfill direct mutual aid requests or really emergency funding aid requests that have been sitting in my inbox. I have like, yeah, like there's a system to that. It wasn't the money that was like, whoa, holy shit. It was more that I was sitting here after several months of hearing people go, I can't, but you can in regards to me. So it was more like people do care. They absolutely care enough to send you ismatu do $2. You just don't care about nameless, faceless Africans. Oh, it broke my heart. So I tried not to drink, I tried not to smoke, and I was way more successful than I've been in previous iterations on that. I am proud of myself. The sobriety bug finally caught me, and I wasn't trying to run anymore. Like, I really needed my mind to think through this, which means that I had to deal with the pain and the surprise that unearthed all this pain, actually, that I hadn't really dealt with from the first iterations of this project to feeling helpless as an undergraduate to being told I was helpless as an undergraduate, and those kind of cycles of me feeling very galvanized to move and me not being received well or responded to well and just feeling crazy, so I would stop moving. And that was that same kind of cycle that I was in. And I think I was finally able to resolve at this time where I can take sustained action and I can take being disappointed or take having people not really seeing what I'm doing, but still moving forward anyways. I've never considered myself altruistic, by the way. Not everybody said the words crazy or manic, even though those words were said. There was also like, oh, idealistic or altruistic to a fault, right? I don't consider myself altruistic. I think I see the problems of the world for what they are: collective and also an immediate emergency. This is an emergency situation. And despite that, right, despite all that groundwork being laid in terms of my concentrated course of study, my concentrated course of public study for the last year, we could not extrapolate. Like I'm reminded of how disturbed I was during the Stop Coney viral campaign. I'm reminded of how disturbed I am watching Free Tibet syndrome be taken up again under the banner of a liberated Palestine, even though I don't know that people actually want the violence that is going to come necessarily with the fall of the Israeli apartheid state. Like, Israel slaughters, you know, people in the West Bank today, literally today, but we don't discuss it anymore because the ceasefire has been reached in the Gaza Strip, and that's heavy in quotes, right? I remember why I stopped being sober, not just because it's so much pain to look at the world directly, but also I think it's more painful seeing how much planned apathy is baked into these narratives that we are fed. That there's a point in time in which, like, you're supposed to stop caring even when the problem hasn't been solved. All of that being said, I made promises I intend to keep, even if it's taken me longer than what I would have liked and longer than what I planned. How do I intend to raise this money for the short and the long term? Okay. This is where I have to talk about social media marketing and community intellectual property. By far, the easiest way to make financial progress on a crowdsourcing fund is just to make advertisements. I wrote in a letter to Social Income about this, right? So it pulls up one of the videos that I made in July, I believe, of 2024, with the hook, like, the only thing worse than a genocide is watching it fall out of the news cycle. This is an advertisement. Advertisements are effective in spikes but poor in long term retention, which is actually what I want. I'm really, really good by now at social media marketing. I understand the buying funnel and the trigger words and phrases to use to get people to donate to a project without thinking about it, getting people in that automatic state of like click, 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 donate, send money. This is how I funded farming initiatives the first time around so quickly, right? $120,000 pre fees in about 6 weeks. I used very morally questionable marketing tactics to get those funds raised as quickly as I could. And I perpetuated narratives that I don't actually agree with, right? Like, I would say, at what age do you begin to deserve poverty? There's all this rhetoric around children don't deserve poverty, poor people shouldn't have kids, but in fact there is no age in which you begin to deserve the intentional violence that poverty is. Poverty is a policy choice. I would say those things, right? And then at the same time, I would push the babies to the front. I'd be like, help me feed these kids. Look at these kids. Look at these kids. Help me feed them. Look at these kids, right? Like, because I know that that is a buying trigger for people. Or I emphasize that the adults in question were not just nameless, faceless Africans, but my own family members. Didn't matter that I hadn't met them until this year, right? I tied my social capital to this group of people very intimately to ensure success. It's easy and it's cheap. And that is a great way to solidify one's status as a celebrity activist, heavy on the quotes. It is not a great way to create lasting change in the hearts and the minds of those witnessing you do this work. That's very high spikes, high reward immediately, but there is very low retention. In Information Anarchy, the case against sponsorships, which is one of my favorite essays to date, I asserted that I will not use my word to sell a product. While not specifically stated, because I didn't know I'd be in that circumstance, I do think that also applies to advertising of any sort, not just when I'm selling a physical product or good, especially on behalf of someone else. I don't want to sell you the idea of hope or sell you the idea of revolutionary productivity by donation. I don't want the reason that you donate to a fundraiser or an initiative or you become a paid supporter of anything that I'm doing to be because ismatu told you so or ismatu made you feel a certain kind of way. I want it to be because you understand the mission and you understand the vision and you understand that what we spend our money on is a direct reflection of our values. I want there to be a conscious moment of reflection and giving me the power to world make, be it in your time, your attention, your fiat currency. All of this is capital that I can use to shape the world that I have accessible to me. I think it is a disingenuous thing to do with my power of visibility and the trust that you have all given in me to push buttons of sympathy or guilt or whatever to have you to squeeze some dollars out of you. That feels exploitative. It is exploitative, which means that if I'm really going to be a public scholar, I'm tasked with creating an accessible online curriculum capable of teaching people what it means to act in solidarity with those you might never meet, because that is a crucial skill set to survive the coming world. I am tasked with teaching you how to extrapolate, right? Even though they were not in my exact circumstance, where can I apply the successes of their systems making into the systems that I have? And that is a harder job by a lot, okay? It's giving me stress pimples. Oh my gosh. But also, however, it's pushing me past what I originally conceived of as possible. See the following. Instead of, for one, a traditional print run with a traditional book publisher, which I was offered at multiple points, ismatu Gwendolyn, the undersigned, retains the full rights to their artistic works, and they have stewarded, they breathe life into them. Small prophecies will be known to the public in the following ways: as an audio project in 4 separate streaming albums and 1 interlude, made free everywhere where you are able to stream audio projects. This includes, but is not limited to, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, SoundCloud, etc. The debut in audio format helps to invite the layperson to engage with art forms that come with structural barriers to access or comprehension. Engaging with long-form text, reading poetry, navigating learning or reading disabilities, it helps to lower that barrier of entry. We also have the ebook and the PDF versions, which require no overhead costs for distribution, and those will be made available for free. This ensures that the book is truly accessible worldwide, including in places where any amount of US dollars for a book is an untenable expense. This also includes those of us in Imperial Course who would love to participate but cannot spare the money to buy a copy. Ismatu Gwendolyn, the undersigned, transcriber of the work of Small Prophecies does not consider themselves to be the sole proprietor or having ownership over the work. And this is because the work or works in question, they were built collaboratively through many years of experience with many different teachers. As a result, the print copies, which do require overhead, will garner a profit, typically known as royalties. Ismatu Gwendolyn, the individual, will keep 0% of royalties for personal use. Side note, 0% overhead is a motto that I have taken from social income, and it's one that I am trying to adopt into every facet of my life. The fact that they are a non-governmental organization that is entirely volunteer run, and all of the monies that they are given from a donation base do not go to their personal pockets. None of it, 0%. All of it goes towards the universal basic income projects that they are working on in Sierra Leone. The fact that they're open source, like, I have been so radicalized by that. Typically, when you have garnered enough of a following to be able to sell an art project, this is how you come into the mode of celebrity that is stable, right? And the mode of celebrity that might garner wealth. That's how you start wealth building, right? Royalties. I'm going to keep 0% of these royalties for personal use. 100% of the royalties will go towards building out this universal basic income project in Sierra Leone for Ebola survivors, the central population within the book's narratives. This allows for a stream of income for people who are otherwise too disabled to work, yet were pivotal, crucial, keystone parts of ceasing the Ebola epidemic in Sierra Leone and in West Africa as a whole. Then, should funds raised from the book sales exceed $400,000 in like one slush fund, 50% of the royalties thereafter shall provide continued support to agriculture efforts in Sierra Leone. You know that I'm growing rice. I also want to be growing fruit. Quite frankly, I dream of true fruit orchards. And this helps alleviate the chronic food insecurity that Ebola survivors and many others face on a day-to-day basis. Ismatu Gwendolyn has been working on the rice harvest since December of 2022. In 2025, that first rice harvest will come, inshallah. There are talks to expand to corn and other kinds of produce. So I would like to see this book, the paperback at least, function as community intellectual property. We also have the Small Prophecies art book. That's going to do different things in a different area of the world, but like, I don't want to get into that yet. Let me not get ahead of myself, okay? Community intellectual property, rather than one person being the sole owner or the sole creditor of this body of information that is collected in this book, we attribute the success of this book to multiple people, right? Or to multiple groups of people, because it was a collective work, and the collective benefits from the material conditions, the material capital generated by that work. Does that make sense? Great. Sorry for my delay on this book, but I think it's coming out at the best possible time, quite frankly. Everything is ordained. And this is obviously not the last time you're going to hear me talk about Small Prophecies on Blueprints. Obviously not. But I'm excited that this is the first. All right. I hope the work of your day passes through your hands with ease. Or easier said, peace.
Hello, future me. I didn't upload it. Not because I didn't get it done. I actually did get it done. The part that I wanted to upload after math was edited and recorded and everything was good to go. And then, in true overachiever fashion, I was like, this is almost what I want it to be. This is almost perfect, but it needs music. It needs music. So I did put out this like cryptic, like, hey, looking for jazz artists, hit me up. Post on my Instagram story. I got a lot of feedback, which is great. Now I gotta siphon through great in like a non-sarcastic way. I feel like I said, oh, great, more work. But no. I'm really excited about this. I think over the process of me recording it, me listening to my voices, not the first time I recorded, by the way, this is actually like take 5 of the full first part. So I'm very familiar with like the cadences that I want, the breaths that I want, the rhythm that I read it at. And I just like, there's a reason that I read all of my essays to jazz music playing softly in the background. And it's because it helps to create a soundscape, like a world that you enter into when you're engaging with a long form piece of media that you need to keep focus on, to keep your attention on. And I tend to use jazz music that I either know the genre really well or I know the song specifically, because I know when they crescendo and decrescendo, and I can tune my own personal dynamics and rhythm to the songs that are playing. It just helps everybody to be like moving in one accord. It helps the frequency stay in like a unison format. You know what I'm saying? I know that's a little woo-woo, but like, you catch my drift? This needs music. So I'm willing to wait for excellence, because once I was like, I kind of feel like I want a little music in here, I knew that I was going to be disappointed if I did anything else. So I'm doing it. Okay. See you next week. Hope the work of your day passes through your hands with ease. I'm so tired.